The federal agents were already in my office when I got back from Lake Geneva. I noticed the black SUVs first, 3 of them parked like they owned the place on North Michigan Avenue. Then I saw the yellow tape across my door. Morrison Tax Consulting in gold letters, 35 years of building trust with every client, now looking like a crime scene from some bad TV show. Special Agent Bradley, the agent who stepped forward, had that particular blend of professional courtesy and absolute certainty that makes your stomach drop. I'm Special Agent Bradley, FBI Financial Crimes Division. We need you to come with you. My hands were shaking when they showed me the documents. $320,000 gone. My client's money vanished through a maze of fraudulent tax returns I'd supposedly filed. The paperwork looked perfect. My signature, my client codes, even my coffee stain on one of the forms from last December. Mrs. Morrison, this account was opened 4 months ago. Agent Bradley slid a bank statement across the interrogation table. The routing shows systematic transfers from your client's refunds, small amounts, spread out. Very clever. I stared at the account number. I'd never seen it before in my life. Someone set me up, I said. My voice sounded hollow, even to my own ears. I don't know who, but someone with access to your office, your computer systems, your client files. Bradley's eyebrow went up. Mrs. Morrison, who else has that kind of access? That's when I realized how perfectly I'd been framed. My office manager retired 6 months ago. I'd been running everything myself, except when Jennifer brought little Emma by after school, except when Rachel, my daughter-in-law, my daughter's wife, stopped by to check on the old woman while I grabbed lunch. Rachel, who always seemed so interested in how my business worked. Rachel, who'd asked to use my computer just to check real estate listings a dozen times. Rachel, who had a key to the office because families should be able to help out. The trial lasted 3 days. My public defender was fresh out of law school and completely outmatched. The prosecution had everything. Forged signatures that somehow looked exactly like mine. Timestamps showing I was in the office when the transfers happened. Even my fingerprints on the fake account application. I sat there watching my life dismantle piece by piece, and the whole time I kept thinking, who benefits from this? Then, Rachel took the stand. Ms. Patterson, you're married to the defendant's daughter, correct? Yes, Mom. Rachel looked uncomfortable, shifting in her seat like this was painful for her. Oscar-worthy performance, really. Jennifer and I have been married for 9 years. Barbara was like a mother to me. In the past year. Did you notice anything unusual about Mrs. Morrison's behavior? Rachel hesitated. Perfect timing, perfect delivery. I didn't want to say anything. She's family. But yes, I saw some things that concerned me. My lawyer objected. The judge overruled. Rachel continued, her voice heavy with false regret. She'd been making mistakes, forgetting things. I saw her working late, doing calculations over and over. Once I came by and found her moving money between accounts. She said it was for tax efficiency, but it seemed odd. I thought maybe she was just getting old, losing her edge. I wanted to stand up and call her a liar. I wanted to scream that she'd been in my office alone a dozen times, that she'd had every opportunity to set this up. But my lawyer grabbed my arm, whispered urgently about making things worse. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all counts. 2 years federal prison, restitution of $320,000 I didn't have, and the permanent destruction of my reputation. They took me to the county jail to await transfer. Gray walls, metal bed, the smell of industrial cleaner trying to mask something worse. I sat there in my orange jumpsuit, 67 years old, wondering how I'd survive prison. The letter arrived on day 3. The guards slid it through the slot with my breakfast tray. White envelope, careful handwriting, no return address. But I recognized Rachel's neat printing immediately. Barbara, I know this is hard. I want you to know that Jennifer and I will take care of everything while you're gone. The house on Maple Ridge Drive, we'll make sure it's maintained. Keep the property taxes paid, all of it. Don't worry about Emma, either. We'll raise her right. Sorry it came to this, but honestly, your time was up anyway. Thanks for the house. We'll take good care of it, Rachel. I read it 3 times, then I read it again. Thanks for the house. Not your house, not we'll watch over it. Thanks for the house, like it was already hers. Like this whole thing had been about getting me out of the way so she could take what was mine. I sat on that metal bed holding that letter, and something cold settled into my chest. Not rage. Rage is hot, impulsive, stupid. This was something else. This was the feeling you get when you're 67 years old and realize you've been played by someone you trusted, someone you welcomed into your family. I thought about the chess games I used to play at the Chicago Chess Society. Long, complicated matches where you sacrifice pieces to gain position, where you think 15 moves ahead, where patience matters more than passion. Rachel thought she'd won. She'd executed her plan perfectly. Frame the old woman. Take her house, her reputation, her freedom, clean sweep. But Rachel had made one critical mistake. She'd assumed that because I was kind, I was weak. She'd assumed that because I'd spent 35 years helping people with their taxes, I didn't understand how to hurt someone. She'd given me 2 years to think, 2 years to plan, 2 years to stop being the victim and become something else. I folded the letter carefully and slid it under my mattress. Then, I lay back on the bed and started thinking, not about innocence or justice or any of that naive nonsense. I started thinking about what a tax consultant knows, about money trails, about legal loopholes, about the thousands of ways the system can be used against someone. If you know where to push. Rachel had taught me an important lesson. Nice women finish last. Time to stop being nice. Decatur Correctional Facility, squatted in the Illinois plains like a concrete tumor. They processed me in on a Tuesday, April 11th. Fingerprints, medical exam, the cheerful orientation where they explained the rules for survival. Don't take anything that isn't yours. Don't look anyone in the eye too long. Keep your head down. I was assigned to a cell with a 23-year-old woman named Destiny, who'd been caught selling stolen electronics. She took one look at me, gray hair, reading glasses, soft hands, from 35 years of pushing paper, and decided I was harmless. Tax lady. Huh, Destiny said on the first night, that's almost funny, like you hurt people with math or something. Something like that. I said, the first month was survival mode, learning the routines, figuring out which guards to avoid, which inmates ran what rackets. I kept quiet, did my work in the prison laundry, stayed invisible. But at night, lying on that thin mattress with Destiny snoring above me, I thought about Rachel's letter. Thanks for the house. In my old life, I would have been devastated, betrayed, broken, but something had shifted. Maybe it was the orange jumpsuit or the way everyone assumed I was just another white-collar criminal who'd gotten greedy. Maybe it was knowing that my daughter believed Rachel over me, that my granddaughter would grow up thinking her grandmother was a thief. Or maybe it was simpler. I had nothing left to lose. I remembered when Rachel first started dating Jennifer. She'd brought her to Sunday dinner at the house, my house, the one on Maple Ridge Drive that I'd bought 28 years ago, when my husband was still alive. Rachel had been charming, funny, attentive, 38 years old, successful real estate agent, great with Emma, even though the child was only 3 then. She makes me feel safe, Jennifer had said after that first dinner, helping me with dishes while Rachel played with Emma in the living room. After Dad died, I didn't think I'd find someone who understood. I'd been happy for her. My daughter deserved happiness. Rachel seemed perfect. I remembered the day they moved into my house. It was supposed to be temporary, just 6 months, while they saved for a down payment. Rachel had stood in the driveway, shaking my hand. You're doing us a huge favor, Barbara. We won't forget this. That was 5 years ago. The visitation request came in May 2023, 1 month into my sentence. Rachel Patterson and Jennifer Morrison Patterson listed on the form. I stared at it for a long time in my cell. Destiny was at lunch, so I had the space to myself. I could picture exactly how it would go. Rachel would sit across from me in the visiting room, wearing her concerned face. Jennifer would cry. They'd talk about how hard this was for everyone, how they were supporting me through this difficult time. Rachel would ask if I needed anything, make a show of caring. And the whole time she'd be checking, watching my face, listening to my words, trying to figure out if I suspected the truth. I picked up the form and wrote one word across it. Declined. The guard who collected it looked surprised. You sure it's your daughter? Ma'am, I'm sure. She came back the next month and the month after that. Every 30 days, like clockwork, Rachel Patterson requested visitation. Sometimes with Jennifer, sometimes alone. I declined every single time. I never wrote a letter explaining why, never sent a message. Just declined in black ink on white paper, over and over. I wanted her to wonder. I wanted her to lie awake at night trying to figure out what I was thinking. Most of all, I wanted her to feel safe. To believe that I was just a broken old woman who couldn't face her family. Let her think she'd won. Let her get comfortable. The prison library became my second home. It was small, maybe 200 books, most of them falling apart, but they had a legal section. Inmates doing appeals had donated their research materials over the years. I started with the basics: Illinois trust law, estate planning, tax codes I'd memorized decades ago but needed to review. I remembered something one of my old professors at Northwestern had said back when I was getting my accounting degree in 1978. The tax code is a weapon. Most people just don't know how to aim it. In week 6, I met Officer Williams during my shift in the laundry. She was supervising, making sure we didn't steal the industrial-sized detergent bottles for some prison hoach operation. I recognized her immediately. I'd done her taxes for 12 years. Helped her claim a home office deduction that saved her $4,000 on her mortgage refinance. Mrs. Morrison. She looked genuinely shocked. "What the hell are you doing here?" "Bad luck," I said quietly. "And a good frame job." Williams glanced around, then moved closer. "Those tax returns they showed at your trial, that wasn't your work. I know your work. You're meticulous. Those forms were sloppy." "Yeah," I said. "I noticed that, too." She studied my face for a long moment. "You need anything?" "Actually," I said carefully, "I need to send a letter, not through regular prison mail. Can you help?" Williams didn't ask questions. The next day, she brought me a stamped envelope and a piece of paper. I wrote carefully, "Ms. Linda Chen, Chen Private Investigations. I need your help proving I was framed. I can't pay you now, but I have assets you can access once I'm cleared. Please visit Barbara Morrison, Decatur Correctional Facility." I'd found Linda's name in a legal journal in the library. She specialized in financial crimes investigation. I just had to hope she was curious enough to come. 3 weeks later, I got word that I had a visitor. Not Rachel this time. A private investigator with clearance. Linda Chen was 54, built like someone who'd spent too many years sitting in cars on stakeouts. She sat across from me in the visiting room and opened a yellow notepad. "Mrs. Morrison, I got your letter. Tell me why I should take a case from an inmate with no money and a conviction for embezzlement." "Because I was set up," I said. "And because the person who did it made one mistake. She got greedy." "Rachel Patterson, my daughter-in-law. Check her bank records from February 2023. She paid off $180,000 in debt right before my client's money disappeared. Check her business partner, Marcus Green. He got a sudden $45,000 consulting fee at the same time." Linda wrote this down. "That's circumstantial. It's a start," I said. "I spent 35 years following money trails. I know how this works." Rachel had access to my office, my computer, my client files. She had motive, gambling debts, probably, knowing her type, and she had me perfectly positioned to take the fall. Old woman, working alone, no witnesses. "What do you want me to do?" "Find the proof. Document everything. I have 2 years to build a case." I leaned forward. "And Linda, I'm not just trying to prove my innocence. I'm going to destroy her, legally, completely. I want you to find every crime she committed, every lie she told, every dollar she hid." Linda studied me. "That's not about justice. That's revenge. Call it what you want," I said. "Are you in?" She was. Rachel's next visitation request came 2 days later. I declined it again, but this time I smiled when I wrote the word, because now I wasn't just refusing to see her, I was refusing to let her know what was coming. In my cell that night, I thought about chess again, about how the best players sacrifice material to gain position, about how sometimes you have to lose everything before you can win. Rachel had taken 2 years of my life, my reputation, my business, my relationship with my daughter. She'd bet everything on me being too broken, too old, too weak to fight back. She'd made a terrible miscalculation. I pulled out the notebook I'd started keeping, hidden under my mattress next to Rachel's letter. Page 1 had a timeline. Page 2 had names. Page 3 had a single sentence at the top. "Justice, like chess, requires patience, strategy, and the ability to see several moves ahead." I was playing a long game now, and Rachel had no idea the clock had already started. 8 months in prison teaches you things they don't cover in accounting school. December 2023 rolled around with the same gray walls, the same terrible food, the same morning count where we all stood like cattle waiting to be numbered. But something had shifted. I wasn't waiting anymore. I was hunting. Linda Chun's reports arrived every 2 weeks, smuggled in through Officer Williams along with my regular mail. The prison censors saw tax documents and legal papers, boring stuff from an old woman trying to appeal her case. They never looked closely enough to see what I was really reading. Subject: Rachel Patterson made a cash deposit of $100,000 on February 14, 2023. Linda's first report stated, bank records show this as personal funds. Patterson paid off outstanding debts to 3 different creditors within 48 hours. Timeline matches the disappearance of funds from your client's accounts. I sat on my bunk reading this, and Destiny looked over from her upper rack. Good news, old lady. Educational material, I said. I'm learning how criminals think. The irony wasn't lost on me. Linda's surveillance logs painted an interesting picture. Rachel maintained her routine like clockwork. Office from 9 to 6, lunch at expensive restaurants she couldn't actually afford, evening drinks with colleagues. She lived large in my house, the house she thought would eventually be hers. Pool parties in the summer, holiday decorations at Christmas, playing happy family with my granddaughter in my backyard. But Linda noticed the cracks. The stressed phone calls in the parking lot. The meetings with a man named Marcus Green that lasted longer than professional courtesy required. The way Rachel checked over her shoulder when she thought no one was watching. Subject appears nervous, Linda wrote in her November report. Increased alcohol consumption observed. Subject has visited Decatur Correctional Facility monthly to request visitation with you. Each time declined. This appears to frustrate her. That made me smile. Good. Let her wonder. January 2024 brought snow to Illinois. Rare heavy accumulation, but it happened. I watched it fall through the narrow window in the library while pretending to read Illinois revised statutes. In reality, I was memorizing Linda's latest findings. Marcus Green, real estate colleague at Rachel's agency, 42 years old, divorced, expensive tastes. He'd received a $45,000 consulting fee from a shell company in February 2023, the same shell company that had briefly held some of my stolen client funds before they vanished into Rachel's accounts. He was her accomplice, had to be. You don't get that kind of money that close to a major embezzlement without being involved. Linda had interviewed 3 of Marcus's former colleagues. One mentioned he'd been weirdly secretive about a special project last winter. Another said he'd suddenly taken a trip to the Bahamas in March 2023, right after my arrest, and posted photos of himself drinking expensive champagne. Stupid. Criminals always get stupid with money. They can't help themselves. The next visitation request came in February 2024. Rachel again. No Jennifer this time. Just her, solo, making her monthly pilgrimage to check on me. I imagined her in the waiting room, signing in, preparing her concerned face. I wrote, declined, with more force than necessary. The pen almost tore through the paper. Officer Williams collected the form and shook her head. She's been coming every month for almost a year. Mrs. Morrison, your daughter, too. Sometimes, maybe you should. No, I said. She needs to keep wondering why I won't see her. It's part of the plan. Williams didn't ask what plan. She'd learned not to dot in my cell at night. I kept my notebooks hidden inside legal textbooks. Destiny never looked at them. She thought I was just another old lady trying to appeal her case. On page 14, I'd created a timeline. February 14th, 2023. Rachel deposits $180,000 cash. February 15th through 17th, 2020. Rachel pays off debts. March 3rd, 2020. My clients report missing refunds. March 8th. FBI arrests me. March 9th. Marcus Green deposits $45,000. The pattern was so obvious it hurt. How had the FBI missed this? Or maybe they hadn't missed it. Maybe they'd just gotten lazy once they had their tax consultant in handcuffs. Clean conviction. Case closed. Move on to the next one. But I wasn't lazy. And I had nothing but time. April 2024 marked 1 year since I'd entered Decatur Correctional Facility. The prison threw no parties. Destiny got released, hugged me goodbye, and promised to stay clean this time. I got a new cellmate, a young woman named Keisha, who'd violated parole on a drug charge. What you in for, Grandma? She asked on her first night. Embezzlement I didn't commit, I said. She laughed. Yeah, everyone in here is innocent. Most people are lying. I agreed. I'm not. Linda's April report was different, thicker. She'd been doing what investigators call deep background work, checking Rachel's full financial history, not just the obvious timeline around my arrest. Rachel Patterson had a gambling problem. Not just casual poker with buddies, serious gambling. Linda found credit card receipts from Las Vegas trips, online betting accounts, undershell email addresses, debts to 3 different bookies that totaled $180,000 by January 2023, exactly $180,000. Rachel had been desperate, drowning in debt, and then, suddenly, miraculously, in February 2023, she wasn't all paid off. Clean slate, and all it cost her was framing her mother-in-law and stealing from innocent clients. I read that report 3 times, then I wrote Linda a short note. Keep digging, I want everything. Bank accounts, tax returns, business dealings, parking tickets, everything. When we move against her, I want it to be total. Linda's response came 2 weeks later. Understood. Also, Patterson filed a visitation request for May, her 12th attempt. Should I arrange counter-survey? I wrote back, no, let her come, let her keep coming. I want a record of every single visit she tried to make. Shows she knew something was wrong. Couldn't leave it alone. May, June, July, 2024. The visits kept coming. The declines kept going back. Each one was a little victory. A reminder that I was controlling this game now, not her. Linda found Marcus Green's weak point in August. Taxes. He'd reported that $45,000 payment as consulting income, but had used most of it for personal expenses that couldn't possibly be business. The Bahamas vacation, a new car, designer watches, all documented in his social media posts, tagged and dated like evidence he'd gift-wrapped for us. Green is our leverage point, Linda wrote. If this goes to court, he'll flip on Patterson to save himself, guaranteed. I filed that information away carefully. Not yet, not until all the pieces were in position. September brought cooler nights and the realization that I'd been locked up for 17 months. 17 months of gray walls and bad food and the same routines, but I wasn't the same woman who'd entered these gates. That woman had been soft, trusting, naive enough to think good work and honest living meant something. This new version of me understood better. Life wasn't fair. Justice wasn't guaranteed. And sometimes the only way to win was to play the long game better than your opponent. Rachel's October visit request arrived with a note. Please, Barbara, we need to talk. It's about Emma. Using my granddaughter as bait. Classy. I declined it faster than usual. Linda's October report included photographs. Rachel looking stressed outside her office. Marcus Green having lunch with her, both looking serious. Rachel checking her phone constantly, the universal sign of someone waiting for bad news. They knew something was coming, they could feel it, they just didn't know what. And that's exactly how I wanted it. December 2024 arrived cold and clear, 4 months until release. Time to stop gathering information and start building weapons. My public defender had been useless during the trial, but Linda had found me someone better, Sarah Martinez, a criminal defense attorney who actually believed in my innocence. Now that she'd seen the evidence, Sarah visited me on December 3rd, bringing a briefcase full of documents and a plan. Mrs. Morrison, the case for your appeal is strong, Sarah said in the visiting room. Chun's investigation shows clear evidence of financial irregularities in Patterson's accounts. Timeline matches perfectly. We can file for post-conviction relief based on newly discovered evidence. That's step 1, I said. What about step 2? Sarah smiled slightly. You want to go after Patterson directly. I want to destroy her, I corrected. Legally, completely. I want her to lose everything the way I lost everything. That requires a different kind of lawyer, Sarah said. Someone who specializes in trusts and estates. I know someone. That's how David Walsh entered my life. 49 years old, sharp as broken glass, with a reputation for winning inheritance disputes that other lawyers called impossible. He visited me 1 week after Sarah, and I knew immediately he was perfect for this. Mrs. Morrison, David said, spreading documents across the metal table between us. Your house on Maple Ridge Drive, tell me about the ownership structure. I bought it in 1997, I said. Paid it off in 2011. When my husband died in 2020, I created a living trust for my granddaughter Emma. She was only 6 at the time. The house went into the trust with me as the trustee. So legally, you don't own the house. The trust does. Correct. David made a note. And who's living there now? Rachel Patterson, my daughter, her wife Jennifer, my daughter, and Emma. They moved in 5 years ago. Temporary, they said. Then I got arrested, and suddenly they're treating it like it's theirs. David's pen moved across his notepad. Did you give them permission to stay there while you're incarcerated? No, there's no formal lease, no rental agreement. They're just there. Interesting. David looked up. Under Illinois law, if the trustee is incapacitated or imprisoned, the trust enters a dormant state until the trustee can resume duties or a successor is appointed. But here's the part your daughter-in-law doesn't know. You can still act as trustee from prison through a designated representative, and if you're released, you can activate a clause requiring review of all occupancy arrangements. English. Please, I said, you can kick them out legally, and they won't see it coming until it's too late. For the first time in 20 months, I felt something like hope, not the warm kind, the cold, calculating kind that comes from seeing your enemy's weakness. How long will it take to set up? I asked. I'll need access to the original trust documents, file some paperwork, maybe 6 weeks. Your release date is March 12, 2025, correct? Then I'll make sure everything's ready. The eviction notice can be served 90 days after your release. June 10th, middle of summer, when housing is expensive and scarce. I appreciated her attention to detail. Over the next 8 weeks, David filed papers I barely understood, amendments to the trust, designation of temporary successor trustee, notice of intention to review occupancy, all legal, all documented, all building toward the moment when Rachel would realize she'd been living in a house that was never hers and never would be. But that wasn't enough. One wanted more. In January 2025, I gave Linda Chen a new assignment: find every dollar Rachel Patterson earned that she didn't report to the IRS. Every cash payment, every side deal, every penny she hid. I want a complete picture. Linda's response came 3 weeks later. The report was 47 pages long. Rachel hadn't just stolen my money. She'd been running unreported income schemes for years. Cash payments from clients that never appeared on her 1099, consulting fees from shell companies, under-the-table commissions from developers who wanted to avoid proper documentation. Linda estimated at least $67,000 in unreported income, just in 2024 alone. Add the $180,000 she stole from me, which she definitely didn't report as income because that would be admitting to theft, and you had $247,000 in taxable income the IRS knew nothing about. I'd spent 35 years helping people navigate tax law. I knew exactly what happened to people who hid that much money from the government. Penalties, interest, potential criminal charges. The IRS didn't play games. Linda, I wrote back, document everything. I want dates, amounts, sources, make it When I get out, we're handing this to the IRS. In February, Rachel made her 20th visit request. 20 months of trying to see me. 20 months of me saying no. I wondered if Jennifer knew how obsessed she'd become. I wondered if she questioned why her mother refused to see her own family. Let her wonder. She'd chosen her side. The last report from Linda before my release arrived on March 1st. She'd found the final piece. Marcus Green had been having an affair with Rachel. Not anymore. It ended badly in late 2024, but he'd kept records, texts, emails, photos, the kind of documentation angry ex-lovers keep as insurance. Green will cooperate if approached correctly, Linda wrote. He's afraid of Patterson now, thinks she might blame him if anything goes wrong. Classic criminal psychology, thieves turning on each other. I filed that away, too. Another weapon for the right moment. Officer Williams found me in the library on March 8, 4 days before release. You've got that look, she said, like you're planning something. Just thinking about freedom. I said, Mrs. Morrison, whatever you're planning, be careful. Patterson's not going to take this lying down. Neither am I said. That's the whole point. On my last night in Decatur Correctional Facility, I lay in my bunk and reviewed everything: the timeline, the evidence, the legal structures David had built, the IRS documentation Linda had compiled. 23 months of patient, methodical preparation. Rachel thought she'd won by framing me. She thought the old woman would rot in prison while she lived the good life in my house with my daughter, raising my granddaughter as her own. But Rachel had made one critical error in her planning. She'd assumed I'd break. She'd assumed prison would destroy me, that I'd come out beaten and helpless. Instead, I'd spent 23 months becoming someone new, someone harder, someone who understood that nice women finish last, and I was done being nice. I'd learned something important from chess. Sometimes you sacrifice a piece to gain position. Sometimes you lose your queen to set up checkmate. Rachel had taken 2 years of my life. Now I was going to take everything from her, and it would all be completely legal. February 2025. 1 month until freedom. That's when Rachel finally figured out something was wrong. Officer Williams handed me the notification with a grim expression. Someone's been asking questions about you on the outside. Private investigator named Danny Moss. Cheap license. Works out of a strip mall. He's been calling the facility, trying to confirm your correspondence logs. I'd been expecting this. Linda had warned me that Rachel might get nervous eventually. 22 months of declined visits would make anyone suspicious, especially someone with as much to lose as my daughter-in-law. Let her dig, I said. There's nothing she can find that will help her. But Williams looked concerned. Mrs. Morrison, if Patterson knows you're working with lawyers, she might try something preemptive. I'm counting on it. 3 days later, David Walsh called. His voice on the prison phone was tight with controlled anger. Barbara, your daughter-in-law just filed for adverse possession of your house. She's claiming 2 years of continuous occupation with maintenance and care of the property while you were incarcerated. She's arguing that the trust is invalid because you can't serve as trustee from prison. I smiled. The guard monitoring the call probably thought I was crazy. David, that's exactly what we needed. She just put her intentions in writing. Filed with the court. Public record. She's documented her greed for us. You knew she'd do this. I hoped she would. Rachel's smart, but she panics under pressure. She's been feeling safe for too long. Those monthly visits she kept trying to make. She was checking on me, making sure I wasn't planning anything. Now she knows I am, so she's trying to grab the house before I get out. It's predictable. David was quiet for a moment. I can block this filing. There's a technical error in her paperwork. She listed the property owner as you personally, not the Emma Louise Morrison Trust. Basic mistake, but it invalidates the whole petition. Do it. Make her look incompetent. And David, make sure the rejection gets filed publicly. I want a paper trail of her trying to steal from her own daughter's trust fund. Understood. David paused. Barbara, you've gotten cold. No, I said. I'd just stopped being warm. Linda Chen's final report before my release was comprehensive. She'd tracked Rachel's movements for the past 3 weeks. The woman was falling apart. Multiple meetings with her cheap private investigator, long lunches with Marcus Green, where they argued loud enough for nearby tables to hear, late-night drives past the Decatur facility, like she was trying to work up courage to demand answers I wouldn't give. The gambling debts had returned. Linda found records of Rachel visiting a casino in Indiana twice in January, losing money she didn't have. The pattern was reasserting itself. Stress made Rachel gamble. Gambling made her desperate. Desperation made her stupid. Perfect. On March 1st, I received a letter from Jennifer, my daughter. Her handwriting was shaky, uncertain. Mom, Rachel says you've been plotting something. She says you hired lawyers to try to take the house. That's not true, is it? We've been taking care of everything while you were gone. We kept the property taxes paid, maintained the yard, everything. This is our home now. Emma's home. Please don't do anything that would hurt your granddaughter. Jennifer. I read it 3 times. Each time it hurt less. She'd chosen her side. She'd believed Rachel's version of events, believed I was guilty, and now she was defending the house they'd stolen from me. My daughter thought I was the villain in this story. I wrote back, Jennifer, you'll understand everything soon. The house belongs to Emma. It always did. I made sure of that in 2019 when I created her trust. You and Rachel have been living in your daughter's property rent-free for 2 years. We'll discuss this when I'm released. Mom. Short, factual, cold. Officer Williams collected the letter and studied my face. You okay, Mrs. Morrison? Better than okay, I said. Everything's falling into place. March 11th, the day before my release, Rachel made her final visit attempt. Request number 23. I pictured her in the parking lot, signing in one last time, desperate for any indication of what I was thinking. I wrote declined with a flourish. That night, my last night in Decatur Correctional Facility, I couldn't sleep. Not from anxiety, from anticipation. I lay on my bunk, reviewing the plans step by step. David had filed all the necessary paperwork. The trust was reactivated. Successor trustee appointed. Eviction notice prepared for 90 days post-release. Linda had compiled the financial evidence for the IRS. Sarah Martinez had my appeal ready to file based on the new evidence of Rachel's fraud. Every piece was positioned perfectly. I'd sacrificed 2 years of my life, my queen, in chess terms, but now, Rachel's king was exposed, and I had 14 different ways to deliver checkmate. The next morning, March 12th, they processed me out at 6 a.m. I walked through those gates carrying one small box of belongings, legal documents, mostly, and my notebooks with their carefully tracked timelines. The Illinois sunrise was just starting to paint the sky orange. The air smelled like wet earth and freedom. David Walsh was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against a silver sedan, professional as always, dressed in a gray suit that probably cost more than my entire prison wardrobe. "Good morning, Barbara," he said. "Ready to go home?" "Not yet," I said. "First, I need to make a statement." We drove to a bank in Chicago where David had arranged for me to access my accounts, frozen during my incarceration, but now reactivated. I had $83,000 saved, not much for 2 years of legal work, but Linda and David had agreed to defer most of their fees until after my appeal succeeded. "We believe in you," Linda had said during our last prison meeting, "and we believe in taking money from people like Rachel Patterson." From the bank, we went to a law office on West Adams Street. David's firm occupied the entire 15th floor, glass walls, modern furniture, the kind of place that screams success. We sat in a conference room overlooking downtown Chicago, and David spread documents across the mahogany table. "Everything's ready," he said. "The moment we file the eviction notice, Rachel and Jennifer will receive official notification 90 days from today, June 10th. A sheriff will remove them from the property if they haven't vacated voluntarily, and the accumulated rent, I asked, $52,800, based on comparable properties in North Chicago. The trust has legal standing to pursue collection. We can attach any assets Rachel has, which according to Linda's research, isn't much." I looked at the paperwork, months of preparation condensed into legal language that would destroy Rachel's comfortable life. "One more thing," I said. "I want to be there when she gets the news. I want to see her face." David smiled. "I thought you might. She's waiting at the prison gates. Shall we surprise her?" They were waiting when we pulled into the Decatur Correctional Facility parking lot. Rachel's BMW, leased Linda's research had revealed, not owned, was parked near the exit gate. I could see them through the windshield. Rachel in the driver's seat, Jennifer beside her, Emma in the back. My granddaughter, 8 years old now. I hadn't seen her since before my arrest. "You don't have to do this," David said quietly. "We can serve the papers through normal channels." "No," I said. "I want her to know. I want her to understand that I knew all along." We got out of the car. Rachel saw me immediately and climbed out, her face arranged in what she probably thought was a welcoming expression. Concerned, caring, the dutiful daughter-in-law, picking up her mother-in-law from prison. I'd spent 2 years imagining this moment. Reality was better. "Barbara," Rachel called out, walking toward me with her hand extended. "Welcome back. We're here to take you home." I stopped 3 feet away, didn't take her hand, just looked at her. She was aging poorly, new lines around her eyes, gray at her temples. The stress of wondering what I knew had taken its toll. "Home," I said. My voice came out colder than I'd intended. "You mean my house on Maple Ridge Drive, the one at 4127 that I purchased in 1997? Rachel's smile flickered. "Well, yes, we've been maintaining it for you. Everything's exactly as you left it. Everything except my freedom, my reputation, and $320,000 of my client's money that you stole." The parking lot went silent. Jennifer had gotten out of the car now, Emma's hand in hers. Her face went pale. "Mom, what are you?" "Jennifer, take Emma back to the car," I said without looking at her. "This conversation is between me and Rachel." Rachel's fake smile was gone now. Her jaw tightened. "Barbara, I understand you're upset about what happened, but accusations like that, accusations." I pulled the envelope from my jacket, the one David had prepared. "Let me tell you about accusations, Rachel. February 14th, 2023, you deposited $180,000 in cash to pay off gambling debts. March 8th, 2023, I was arrested. Timeline matches perfectly. You had access to my office, my computer, my client files. You forged the documents, set up the fake account, transferred the money, and framed me." Rachel's face was transforming, the confident masks cracking. Her skin went from healthy tan to something closer to old newspaper. Her hands, which had been gesturing casually, suddenly didn't seem to know where to go. You can't prove." "I have 2 years' worth of proof. Bank records, surveillance footage, Witness statements. I took a step closer. And your accomplice, Marcus Green. He's very interested in making a deal with prosecutors to avoid his own charges. Funny how criminals turn on each other. Rachel's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. She looked like a fish that had just realized it was on a hook. It was magnificent. But let's talk about the house, I continued. That's why you're really here, isn't it? You thought you'd drive me back, get me comfortable, make sure I wasn't going to cause problems, keep me under control. We're family, Rachel managed. We're not family. You're the woman who destroyed my life to steal my property. Speaking of which, I gestured to David, who stepped forward with his briefcase. This is David Walsh, specialist in trust and estate law. David, would you explain to Rachel about the house? David's smile was professional and merciless. Miss Patterson, in 2019, Mrs. Morrison transferred the property at 4127 Maple Ridge Drive into an irrevocable living trust for the benefit of her granddaughter, Emma Louise Morrison. Mrs. Morrison served as trustee. Upon her incarceration, the trust entered dormant status. Now that Mrs. Morrison has been released, she has transferred trusteeship to a professional trustee who will execute the trust's purpose, preserving the asset for the beneficiary. He handed Rachel a document. She took it with shaking hands. That's an eviction notice, David continued. You have 90 days to vacate the property. June 10th, you'll also owe $52,800 in fair market rental value for your 2-year occupation. The trust will pursue all legal remedies to collect this debt. Rachel stared at the paper. Her hands were trembling so badly the document rustled like leaves in wind. Her face had gone from newspaper gray to something closer to white chalk. Sweat beaded on her forehead despite the cool March morning. You can't do this, she whispered. We have rights. Adverse possession. I filed. Your filing was rejected yesterday, David said. Technical errors. It's public record. You attempted to claim ownership of property held in trust for your own daughter. That shows intent to defraud, which will be very interesting to prosecutors when they review Mrs. Morrison's case. This is insane. Rachel's voice cracked upward. Barbara, you're doing this because you're angry. But think about Jennifer. Think about Emma. You're going to make your own granddaughter homeless. Emma owns the house, I said quietly. She'll get it when she turns 20. In the meantime, Jennifer can rent an apartment like a normal adult. You, on the other hand. I paused. Let the moment breathe. You're going to lose everything. The house is just the beginning. Rachel's eyes went wide. Actual fear now, replacing the arrogance. What did you do? I spent 2 years planning, I said. Every month you came to visit, trying to make sure I didn't suspect anything. Every month I declined, and you went home more nervous. You should have left me alone, Rachel. You should have taken your stolen money and disappeared. Instead, you got greedy. You tried to take my house, too. You're bluffing. But her voice had no conviction. Am I? I tilted my head. I guess you'll find out soon enough. Enjoy the next 90 days in the house, Rachel. Make some good memories. They'll have to last you. I turned to David. Let's go. I need breakfast. Prison food was terrible, and I've been dreaming about real coffee for 2 years. That as we walked to the car, I heard Jennifer calling after me. Mom, please, we can talk about this. I didn't turn around, didn't respond, just got in David's sedan and let him drive me away from the prison, away from Rachel's shocked white face, away from 2 years of concrete and steel. In the rearview mirror, I watched Rachel standing in the parking lot, still holding the eviction notice, her mouth moving but no sound reaching me. Jennifer had her hands on Rachel's shoulders, clearly asking what was wrong. Emma stood beside them, confused and scared. It wasn't perfect. Hurting my daughter wasn't part of the plan I'd enjoyed, but she'd made her choice when she believed Rachel over me. How do you feel? David asked as we merged onto the highway toward Chicago. Hungry, I said, and impatient. This is move 1. I have 13 more planned. David laughed. Barbara Morrison, I think prison made you terrifying. No, I said, watching the planes roll past. It made me strategic. April rolled in with that unpredictable Chicago spring that makes everything feel like it's waiting for something to break. I'd been out of prison for 3 weeks, living in a modest apartment David had helped me rent, not the house that would wait until June 10th when the sheriff evicted Rachel. For now, I had a 1-bedroom place with a view of the parking lot and enough space to rebuild my life, or, rather, to finish tearing down Rachel's. Linda Chen called me on April 7th. Barbara, it's done. I submitted the financial investigation report to the IRS Criminal Investigation Division this morning. Everything's documented. The $180,000 in unreported income from February 2023, the $67,000 in cash consulting fees from 2024, all of it. They confirmed receipt and opened a case file. I was drinking coffee on my small balcony, watching the sunrise. How long until they contact her? Criminal investigations usually take time, but this case is straightforward. I'd estimate 2 to 3 weeks before she gets the first notice. Barbara, when they see she didn't report income that matches exactly with embezzled funds from your case, they're going to connect the dots fast. Good, I said. That's the point. The beauty of it was simple. I hadn't done anything illegal. Linda had compiled publicly available financial records. I'd submitted a detailed citizen's report to the IRS, something any American can do if they suspect tax fraud. The fact that the suspect was my daughter-in-law, who'd framed me for embezzlement, that was just context. Sarah Martinez, my criminal defense attorney, had been watching Rachel's attempts to fight the eviction. She's hired 3 different lawyers, Sarah told me over lunch at a downtown diner. Every single one has told her the same thing. The trust is ironclad. One of them actually laughed when Rachel suggested adverse possession after her filing was rejected. The legal community's starting to talk about her, and not favorably. Her reputation's suffering, collapsing. Real estate agents live on referrals and trust. Word's gotten around that Rachel Patterson tried to steal property from her own daughter's trust fund. Her office has started distancing themselves from her. I took a bite of my sandwich. It tasted better than anything I'd eaten in 2 years. What about Marcus Green? Still employed at the same agency, but he's been very quiet. No social media activity, no public appearances. If I were him, I'd be nervous. Marcus should have been nervous. Linda's investigation had given the IRS everything they needed to see his role. The $45,000 payment, the timeline, the shell company connection. He'd helped launder stolen money and taken his cut. The moment the IRS started digging into Rachel, they'd find him. The question was, would he panic first? April 23rd, I got my answer. David called at 9 in the morning. Barbara, Marcus Green just contacted the FBI. He's offering to cooperate in exchange for immunity. He's claiming Rachel Patterson forged documents in your name, that he helped move money without knowing it was embezzled, and that he's willing to testify. I set down my coffee cup carefully. He's flipping on her completely. He's scared. The IRS contacted him last week about unreported income, and he realized he's facing potential jail time. He's trying to save himself by giving them Rachel. Will they give him immunity? Probably. He's a minor player with evidence against the main perpetrator. The FBI and IRS both want Rachel more than they want him. Barbara, this means your appeal just got a lot stronger. If Marcus testifies that Rachel framed you, that's direct evidence of your innocence. I stood up and walked to my apartment window. Down in the parking lot, normal people were going about their normal lives. None of them knew that somewhere across town, Rachel Patterson's world was imploding. When does Rachel find out? I asked. She probably already knows. The IRS serves notices by certified mail and through official contact. My guess, she got the letter yesterday or today. I imagined Rachel opening that letter, that thick official envelope from the Internal Revenue Service, the words, Criminal Investigation Division at the top, the detailed accounting of $247,000 in unreported income, the calculation of penalties, interest, and back taxes, totaling $340,000, the realization that this wasn't about the house anymore. This was about her freedom. Linda called 2 hours later. Barbara, Rachel just tried to contact me, left 3 voicemails. She's panicking, wants to know if there's a way to work this out before things get worse. There isn't, I said. The IRS doesn't negotiate with tax cheats, especially not ones who committed fraud to hide embezzlement. Did you respond? No, I'm not her investigator. My work's done. I compiled evidence and submitted it to the appropriate authorities. What happens next is up to them. Perfect, I said. Let her panic. Let her try every door and find them all locked. That evening, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line read, "Please, we need to talk." I almost deleted it, but something made me open it. Barbara, I know you're angry. You have every right to be, but please, can we meet? Just you and me. No lawyers, no games. I need to explain some things. There's more to this story than you know. Rachel, I read it 3 times. Then I forwarded it to David and Sarah with a note. Documentation of contact attempt. Maintain no communication policy. Sarah responded within minutes. Good instinct. She's looking for any way to control the narrative or get information about what you know. Don't engage. I wouldn't. Rachel had spent 2 years in my house playing the concerned daughter-in-law while I rotted in prison. She'd made her choices. Now she could live with the consequences. The April weather warmed up. My apartment didn't have great air conditioning, but I didn't care. I spent my days walking through Chicago, relearning the city I'd left behind. The coffee shops that had opened while I was gone, the restaurants that had closed, the way the loop had changed. I also spent time at the Chicago Chess Society. My old membership was still active. They'd kept it going as a courtesy after my arrest. Some of the regular players recognized me. Most were polite but distant. One older woman, a retired judge named Margaret, sat down across from me one afternoon. Barbara Morrison, she said, I followed your case. A lot of people thought you were guilty. A lot of people were wrong, I said, setting up the pieces so I'm hearing. Margaret moved her pawn. Word is, things are turning around for you. Your daughter-in-law is in some trouble now, isn't she? That's what I hear, I said, matching her opening. Tax problems, criminal investigation, very unfortunate. Margaret smiled slightly. You know what I appreciate about chess, Barbara? It rewards patience, people who can see the whole board, not just the next move. That's why I like it, too, I said. We played in comfortable silence. I won in 37 moves, a slow, methodical victory that crushed her position piece by piece, until her king had nowhere left to go. Margaret shook my hand afterward. Welcome back, Barbara. Chicago needs more players like you. On April 30th, Linda sent me a text. Green met with FBI and IRS today. 3 hours, he gave them everything. Documents, emails, texts, recorded conversations. Rachel's finished. I sat on my balcony that evening, watching the sun set over the city. Somewhere out there, Rachel was probably doing the same thing, but her sunset looked very different than mine. She was watching everything she'd stolen burn away. The house she'd tried to take, gone in 40 days. The money she'd hidden from the IRS, now evidence against her. The wife who'd believed in her, about to learn the truth. Marcus Green would testify. The evidence would prove Rachel forged my signature, stole my client's money, and framed me for her crimes. My conviction would be overturned, her life would be destroyed, and I wouldn't have broken a single law to make it happen. That's the thing about revenge. When you do it right, you don't need violence or threats or illegal acts. You just need to be patient enough to let your enemy destroy themselves with the same tools they used against you. Rachel had used the law to frame me. Now I was using the law to expose her. Justice isn't always pretty, but it's sufficient. May brought 2 things: spring storms and family drama. The storms I could handle. The drama was more complicated. Jennifer showed up at my apartment on May 3rd without warning. I opened the door to find my daughter standing there, her face red from crying, her hands trembling. Mom, she said, we need to talk, please. I almost closed the door, almost told her that she'd made her choice 2 years ago when she believed Rachel over me, but she looked broken in a way that reminded me of how she'd looked after her father died, lost and desperate for something solid to hold on to. Come in, I said. She sat on my cheap couch in my barely furnished apartment and stared at her hands. I talked to Marcus Green yesterday. He called me. He told me everything about Rachel, about the money, about the gambling debts and the fraud and how she framed you. Jennifer looked up, and her eyes were hollow. He said he helped her launder the money. He said she planned it for months. Mom, she used me. She used all of us. I sat in the chair across from her, didn't move closer. Yes, I believed her, Jennifer said, her voice breaking. When you were arrested, when she testified against you, when she said you'd been acting strange, I believed every word. I thought my mother had turned into a criminal, and my wife was trying to protect us. You chose your wife over your mother, I said quietly. That's not necessarily wrong, Jennifer. You're supposed to be loyal to your spouse, but you should have asked more questions. I know. She was crying now, not bothering to wipe her tears. She was so convincing. Every month when we went to visit you and you declined, she'd say you were ashamed, that you couldn't face us. She made it seem like you were the one pushing us away. I was pushing you away, I said, just not for the reasons she claimed. I was giving myself time to build a case against her. Jennifer looked at me with something like fear. Mom, What did you do? Rachel's terrified. She got some letter from the IRS. She's been calling lawyers all week. The house eviction, the investigation. Is this all you? I reported her tax crimes to the appropriate authorities, I said. I documented her fraud through legal investigation. I activated the trust I'd created for Emma to protect my granddaughter's inheritance. Everything I've done has been legal, Jennifer. Unlike what Rachel did to me, she's saying you're out for revenge, that you've turned cold. I'm out for justice, I corrected. There's a difference. Rachel framed me for a crime, stole from innocent people, and destroyed my reputation. I'm making sure she faces consequences. If that seems cold to you, consider that I spent 2 years in a cell thinking about it. Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. I'm filing for divorce. Good, I need to know something. Mom, the house, Emma's house, will she really get it? Yes. When she turns 25, the trust will transfer full ownership to her. Until then, it'll be managed professionally to maintain the property value. That house is worth $485,000. It's her future. And Rachel and I will be evicted on June 10th. If you haven't vacated by then, Jennifer, you're my daughter. I'll help you find an apartment, help you get settled, but I won't let Rachel stay in that house one day longer than the law allows. She nodded slowly. I understand. I don't like it, but I understand. She stood up. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. I'm sorry I wasn't there when you needed me. I know you can't forgive me right now. I can't, I agreed. Not yet, maybe not for a long time, but you're still my daughter, and Emma is still my granddaughter. We'll figure out how to rebuild after all this is finished. She left without another word. Linda called an hour later. Barbara, Rachel's making moves. She just hired a criminal defense attorney, expensive one, too. Victor Delgado, former prosecutor. He's good. How's Rachel paying for an expensive attorney? I asked. Good question. My guess, she's leveraging everything she has left, maybe borrowed from family, or she's planning to declare bankruptcy and the lawyer knows he won't get paid. What can Delgado do for her? Honestly, not much. Green's testimony combined with the financial evidence is devastating. Best case scenario for Rachel is a plea deal that reduces her sentence, but she's looking at prison time either way. 2 days later, Rachel tried to call me. I'd changed my number, but she found it somehow, probably through Jennifer before she filed for divorce. The phone rang at 7 in the morning. I answered. Barbara, please listen. I hung up. She called back immediately. This time, I let it go to voicemail. Barbara, I know you hate me. I know what I did was wrong, but please, there has to be a way to fix this. The house, fine, take it. The IRS thing, I'll work with them. But you don't have to destroy me completely. Think about Emma. Think about what this will do to her. Please call me back. I deleted the message and blocked the number. Rachel's attorney, Victor Delgado, tried a more formal approach. He sent a letter to David requesting a meeting to discuss resolution options for all parties. David called me to ask how to respond. Tell him no, I said. There's nothing to discuss. The IRS investigation is out of my hands. The eviction is a matter of trust law. I have no interest in helping Rachel avoid the consequences of her actions. She's desperate, David said. Desperate people do unpredictable things. She can't hurt me anymore, I said. What's she going to do? Frame me for another crime while under federal investigation herself. She's cornered. David, let her panic. The real estate agency where Rachel worked made their move on May 15th. They fired her. The official reason was violation of company ethics policies, but everyone knew why. Having an employee under criminal investigation for tax fraud and embezzlement was bad for business. Linda confirmed it through her sources. Patterson cleaned out her desk yesterday afternoon. There was apparently a scene. She argued with her supervisor, claimed she was being unfairly targeted, threatened to sue for wrongful termination. Security escorted her out. Without her job, Rachel had no income. Without income, she couldn't afford Victor Delgado or any other attorney. The expensive lawyer would drop her soon, leaving her with a public defender who'd be overwhelmed and ineffective. The same kind of public defender I'd had at my trial. The symmetry was almost poetic. Jennifer called me on May 20-1. Mom, Rachel came by my apartment last night, the one I'm renting while I wait for the house situation to resolve. She was drunk and angry. She blamed you for everything. The investigation, the eviction, me leaving her, losing her job, all of it. She said you'd planned this for 2 years, that you were obsessed with destroying her. Is Emma okay? I asked. She wasn't there. She was at my friend's house for a sleepover. Rachel left before things got worse. But Mom, she's unraveling. I'm scared she might do something stupid. Did you call the police? No, I wanted to warn you. I thought about this. Rachel, drunk and desperate, blaming me for her own crimes. It fit the pattern. She'd never taken responsibility for anything in her life. Why start now? Jennifer, if she contacts you again, call the police. Document everything. Get a restraining order if necessary. And don't tell her anything about me, where I live, my phone number, nothing. Okay. Mom, be careful. I've been careful for 2 years. I said, I'm not stopping now. But that night, alone in my apartment, I thought about what David had said. Desperate people do unpredictable things. Rachel had everything to lose. Her house, her job, her family, her freedom. Women in that position sometimes make violent choices. I called Linda. I need you to monitor Rachel Patterson, her location, her activities, her contacts. Can you do that? Surveillance, Barbara, that's expensive. I have money. Do it. I need to know if she's planning something. Linda was quiet for a moment. You think she might try to hurt you? I think a woman who'd frame her mother-in-law for embezzlement might do anything when she's cornered, I said, and I'd rather be paranoid and safe than trusting and dead. Understood. I'll start tomorrow. I sat on my balcony until midnight, watching the city lights. Somewhere out there, Rachel was probably doing the same thing. But her night was darker than mine. Her future was measured in prison years and bankruptcy filings. Mine was measured in restored reputation and quiet revenge. But Jennifer was right about one thing. This wasn't over yet. Rachel still had 3 weeks until the eviction. 3 weeks to be desperate. 3 weeks to make a final stupid mistake. I just needed to make sure that mistake didn't involve me ending up dead. June 10th, 2025. Eviction day. I arrived at the house on Maple Ridge Drive at exactly 10 in the morning. The Cook County Sheriff's Department cruiser was already there, parked in the driveway I'd paved 15 years ago. Deputy Martinez stood by the front door, official papers in hand, looking professionally bored. David pulled up beside me in his sedan. Ready for this? He asked. I've been ready for 2 years, I said. The house looked the same as when I'd left it. White siding, black shutters, landscaping that required regular care. My house, the one I'd bought in 1997 for $160,000 and had paid off by 2011, the one worth $485,000 now, the one Rachel Patterson thought she could steal. The front door opened. Rachel stepped out. She looked terrible. Unshaven legs, visible under her shorts, clothes wrinkled, eyes bloodshot and wild. The confident real estate agent who testified against me in court was gone. This was a cornered animal. Desperate and dangerous. You can't do this, she shouted before I'd even gotten out of the car. This is my home. Emma's home. You're making your own granddaughter homeless, you selfish. Miss Patterson, Deputy Martinez interrupted. I need you to step back and let me explain the legal. I don't care about legal. Rachel's voice cracked upward. This whole thing is Barbara's revenge. She's been planning this since prison. She's obsessed. I walked toward the house slowly, deliberately. David stayed a few steps behind me, briefcase in hand. Rachel saw me approaching, and her face transformed, rage mixing with something that looked like genuine fear. Barbara, please. Her tone changed, became pleading. Please, we can work something out. I'll move out. Fine, but don't do the IRS thing. Don't testify against me. You'll destroy me completely. We didn't hug or have some movie moment, just sat there drinking coffee while she processed. But it was a start. September brought cooler weather and new routines. I moved back into the house on Maple Ridge Drive. The trust paid me a modest property management fee to maintain it until Emma turned 25. I spent weeks fixing things Rachel had neglected, repainting rooms, restoring what she'd damaged. In the living room, I set up my old workspace for clock restoration, the hobby I'd abandoned during the stress of running my practice. I bought broken vintage clocks from estate sales and spent quiet evenings bringing them back to life. There was something satisfying about taking broken things and making them work again. Emma visited on Saturdays. Jennifer would drop her off in the morning, and we'd spend the day together. I taught her chess, using my old hand-carved set. She was sharp, asked good questions, thought 3 moves ahead, even at 8 years old. Grandma, why does the night move weird? She asked during our 3rd lesson. Because sometimes the best path isn't straight, I said. Sometimes you have to think differently to win. She considered this, then moved her knight into position to fork my king and rook. Like that. I smiled. Exactly like that. I didn't restart Morrison Tax Consulting. That life was finished. Instead, I became a consultant for the Illinois Attorney General's office, specializing in financial fraud investigations, helping prosecutors understand complex tax schemes, money laundering operations, embezzlement patterns. Turned out 2 years studying law in prison had made me valuable. I knew how criminals thought now. I knew their patterns, their mistakes, their weaknesses, and I was very good at helping authorities catch them. On a Saturday evening in mid-September, I sat on my back patio, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and purple. Emma had just left after beating me in chess for the first time. A clean victory I hadn't let her have. She'd earned it. My phone buzzed. A text from Officer Williams, the guard from Decatur who'd helped me start this whole thing. Saw Patterson's sentencing in the news. Congratulations, Mrs. Morrison. Justice served. I texted back, thanks. Visit Chicago sometime. I'll buy you lunch. I set the phone down and thought about the past 2 years, the planning, the patience, the methodical destruction of Rachel Patterson's life. Some people might call it revenge. A therapist would probably say I was obsessed, but I knew what it really was. Consequences. Rachel had chosen to frame an innocent woman. I'd chosen to make sure she paid for that choice. Everything I'd done was legal, documented, and justified. Justice, like chess, requires patience, strategy, and the ability to see several moves ahead. I'd played this game for 2 years, and I'd delivered checkmate.